Hi, this is Alessio. Hope you're well. Welcome to this video update. In this video, I want to take a look at the chart of Ethereum, although I will briefly mention Bitcoin. Again, just briefly, I'll talk about ETH BTC here. And I want to ask the question, again, what is Ethereum likely telling us here on this chart? It's going to be quite interesting. All right, guys, and also we're going to take a look at this weekly chart as well, which also is very important. So we'll look at the daily and the weekly chart of Ethereum. All right, guys, join us. All right, guys, welcome back. Now, I think it's quite important to begin by just recapping on what we said back in the month of June and July, especially when Ethereum was dropping here. Here's what I said to our members on the 12th of June. So really, the support zone below that, if 1420 cannot hold Ethereum, below that would be 200 weekly average at approximately 1199 or 1200, to likely 1051 to 960, 995 region here. This region of support for Ethereum. And it's going to be very important for Ethereum to actually hold these levels if we're going to complete this correction and move back into an uptrend. All right, guys, welcome back. So this was a very important level of capitulation for Ethereum that actually started buying, again, nibbling with small amounts here on Ethereum. And now, again, I know it went below my level of 960. It doesn't matter. Remember that capitulation, as I'm sure you're aware, capitulation is not a single level. It's not the exact bottom. It is a region or zone of forced selling. And that is the level, essentially, I started buying Ethereum here. And as you can see here, it began to start a bounce from these levels. Now, if you recall, at the beginning of July, I did a video interview with my good friend and fellow trader, Charlie Burton, and here's what we said about Ethereum at the time. But I think you might agree with me on this, perhaps, that maybe in the short term, maybe in the next few weeks, maybe several days and weeks, I think there's a chance for some kind of reversion back to the mean because it's so depressed. I think it's been so oversold recently and a lot of negative sentiment. Bearish sentiment, I think, has been going on. I think that there's a chance of some kind of reversion or some kind of short-term bounce, some kind of reversion back to the mean. What do you think about that, Charlie?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It has had a pretty good run to the downside, and in the short term, yeah, absolutely, it could have a bit of a bounce. Yeah. At the moment, the scope is there for a retracement, whether it be to a moving average, or if I bring my pen up here, we've got these prior lows. Oops, here in this sort of zone. So there's scope there, and that would still be in the context of this overall downwards move on the daily charts at the moment. But certainly there's scope there for a retracement. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, guys, welcome back. So as you can see here, Ethereum has actually managed to do a nice bounce. In fact, let's go on the weekly chart, and you can see that Ethereum has now come to the exact levels that Charlie was talking about. Now, if you recall in that video, I said that quite likely we'd see a reversion to the mean. And by that, I mean a bounce back to the averages or indeed back to resistance. And you can see that Ethereum actually managed to come back to the levels that Charlie was talking about and actually just gone slightly above that level, as you can see there. And it's now testing the 21 weekly moving average here. So it's gone to the 1700 level here and now tested the 21 weekly average here just slightly. I think that's slightly just near the 1950 region there, okay? Just slightly under 2000. So that's a great bounce so far. And by the way, just to let you know, these are the levels I started taking profit. So when I started buying here in the capitulation zone, I began to take partial profits here, again, trimming my position here as we reach key resistance levels here, okay? Let's go back on that daily chart. Now, here's the bottom line. You can see that actually structurally on the chart, Ethereum has a much better structure than Bitcoin. Now, if you look at the chart of Bitcoin, you will see why. Again, you'll see that with Bitcoin, you have a lot of this overlapping structure like this, up and down, up and down, up and down, lots of overlap here in this rising channel formation here. Now, as I explained in my previous video, the problem is that overlapping structures like this tend to be a sign of weakness. It's not a sign of strength. And by the way, as I mentioned before, that's going to be a very important level, key level of support for Bitcoin. So that's a level that needs to get protected because if this key level of support breaks, it may produce downside risk. Now, let me also say this. Notice that with Bitcoin, we have not even reached the 1618 golden ratio extension. This is the blue line here. The golden ratio extension was approximately 26,600 approximately there. Whereas with Ethereum, we managed to exceed that level. Look at this. The golden ratio extension here was exceeded at 1846. And that's a good sign for Ethereum. Again, structurally, notice that Ethereum is doing a lot better here. For one thing, there are very few overlaps. For example, notice that this particular correction here, okay, this does not overlap with this correction. So usually in a rally, when corrections do not overlap like this, that's a good sign. It's a positive sign. It's a sign of strength for that market. And by the way, I should also mention that, yeah, you can see that Ethereum BTC, ETH BTC is also, again, at the moment, ETH is outperforming Bitcoin. Another sign of strength here for Ethereum. So I think structurally and I think relative performance-wise, Ethereum is in a better position, is in a stronger position than Bitcoin. So again, you can see that, again, Ethereum has managed to exceed that 1/600 golden ratio. That's a positive sign too, and moved into resistance. The resistance levels we talked about with Charlie, which is now being reached. That was, as you saw, just near 1700, and also the 21 weekly moving average. And also, we're quite a bit overextended and overbought here on Ethereum as well. So I think now that we've reached resistance, I think it's quite likely that over the next few days and weeks, we could see a pullback. And when I say pullback, I mean a pullback to key levels of support. I'll come to this in a few minutes, but let me also mention that this video is not a recommendation to buy or sell Bitcoin or Ethereum or any crypto. I'm just letting you know what I'm doing and what I'm thinking about the charts at the present moment, but what you do and what you decide is a matter for you. And let me also repeat again, there's a lot of risk that's involved here. So as far as a pullback is concerned, I think if Ethereum, let me also mention this, let me go on the 1 hour chart. On the hourly chart, it's quite interesting that you will notice, if I just pull this back, so on the hourly, you will see that despite the rally and despite the higher highs we made here, so Ethereum made at least several higher highs, as you can see here, 1, 2, 3. But notice on the MACD, we get lower highs, okay? Lower highs, despite the higher highs on the price. Again, that's price divergence or negative divergence. It is very important to actually appreciate. Divergence on its own is not enough. What you also need is a break of support. This is really important because people get this wrong. So until we see a break of support, a divergence on its own is not sufficient to produce a top or indeed a pullback or correction in the price. By the way, that break of support would mean we would have to actually see a break of this support level here. So if Ethereum breaks this support region between 1850 to 1838, okay? That's the support region here. So despite the negative divergences, I still would need to confirm that with a break of support between 1850 to 1838 before we can say that a likely intermediate top or short-term top has been put in here, and then we could see a pullback to support. And that means as long as Ethereum continues to remain above the support of 1850 to 1838, bulls for now have control. Let's go on the daily chart again. So just zooming on this chart on the daily time frame. Yeah, all I'm going to say very simply is this. If Ethereum can see a sustained move below the support region I just mentioned, below the 1838 level here, so a sustained move below 1850 to 1838 could produce downside pressure towards these levels. That's the 21 EMA on my daily time frame chart and the 34 EMA, and there's another level I'm going to show you in a few minutes. But these two moving averages on my chart, again, just to repeat, 21 and 34, these are Fibonacci numbers, as I'm sure you're aware, 21 and 34 EMA. These are levels I always have on my chart. In fact, let me explain to you why. Notice over here, when Ethereum made a pullback, look where it came down to. Notice that Ethereum pulled back and held the 21 and the 34 moving averages beautifully and then bounced from there. Okay, so I'm going to be watching these two levels for a potential pullback. We shall see which of these levels get tested. By the way, let me also give you one more example here. This is Ethereum a few months ago, back in the month of April, May. You'll see here again, it bounced back during this decline. It bounced back to the 34 and 21 EMAs and then boom, dropped. Same thing happened here, bounced back to the 21 EMA here, dropped. And over here, it tested the 21 and 34, failed to get anything going, and then dropped lower. So this is why these two levels are really important. Going to the daily chart, yeah, I think if we get a pullback here in the next few days and weeks, and again, I should just repeat that point, that I would need to see a break. First, I would need to see a break of 1838 to confirm that a likely pullback is going to start. And as for pullback levels, again, as I mentioned, I shall be watching the first level 21 EMA on the daily chart and 34 EMA. And there's another level here I want to show, which is if you do a Fibonacci retracement of the low we made here. So again, as you can see here, we made a low, very important low here back in July, on the 13th of July. If we do a retracement of that, let me show you, from that low to the most recent high, okay? Now again, if price continues to push higher, we'll have to update this. So I'm just going to push it to that high, the most recent high we have on the chart. Now, as I'm sure you're aware, 38.2 is an important Fibonacci support. and that is at 1552 at the current moment, 1552, 1553. That means that if Ethereum starts to make a pullback, these are levels I'll be watching very closely. Once again, 21 daily moving average, 34 daily moving average here, and the 38.2% retracement here at approximately 1552, okay? And you can see the 50 SMA here, that's the white line. The 50 SMA is slowly catching up there with that 38.2% retracement level as well. So I think those are key levels that may get tested over the next few days and weeks should we start a pullback here on Ethereum. By the way, I'll mention one final thing before I finish this video, which is any pullbacks in Ethereum in the next few days and weeks must remain above 1160. So 1160 to about 1,000 must be protected. Okay, so any pullbacks that happen in the next few weeks must remain above 1160 to $1,000 level. Otherwise, if that level breaks, if this region of support breaks, then we may see, again, potentially more downside risk and potentially a lower low. So this is going to be a very important level of support that Ethereum needs to protect, because below this level, if Ethereum breaks this level, especially below 1,000, if that level breaks, it could produce some downside risk here for potential lower low. But I think as long as Ethereum can remain above that region of support, the uptrend could likely continue over the next several months. Alright guys, make sure you watch the most recent members video, which I produced on Sunday. And that I covered a lot of detail about the stock markets, about Bitcoin, and potential wave counts also on the major markets. Plus also in the next Sunday video, I'm going to cover the wave counts on Ethereum as well. And if you're not a member, you can join on this link you see here, which is also in the description. Thank you very much indeed. Bye for now.